Princesses, enchantment, true love's kiss. When it comes to Disney's fairy tales, one can always count on a happy ending. But what if a page was torn from the storybook? What if darkness prevailed and the villains' wicked plots came to fruition?
He perished in the land.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're revisiting 5 original Disney films to imagine what would have happened to the kingdoms if the villains had won.
You poor simple fools, thinking you could defeat me, the mistress of all evil.
Once upon a time, the folklore that inspired so many beloved Disney stories saw much grimmer conclusions. So let's cast ourselves into a land of make-believe, where virtue and magic are thwarted by the sinister agendas of Disney's most iconic baddies.
Then the once proud Zeus will finally fall, and you, Hades, will rule all!
Jafar. One of the most duplicitous Disney villains, Jafar begins as a royal vizier with dreams of becoming the almighty Sultan of Agrabah.
Soon I will be Sultan, not that addle-pated twit.
Unfortunately for him, scrappy street rat Aladdin repeatedly intervenes. Jafar casts Aladdin away several times, first into a cave, then the sea, and finally a frozen wasteland.
Make sure he's never found.
But Aladdin just keeps finding his way back.
How many times do I have to kill you, boy?
In the final battle, Aladdin puts an end to the would-be ruler, but a few minor corrections in Jafar's plans would have conjured a far different outcome.
Perhaps I can divine a solution to this thorny problem.
For one, Jafar wields a snake staff capable of hypnosis, so putting Aladdin under a zombie-like spell could have been a hasty fix. But if that didn't work, then using one of the genie's wishes to permanently remove his greatest adversary from the equation would have certainly done the trick.
I think it's time to say goodbye to Prince Abubu.
With Aladdin totally out of the way, Jafar's initial plot becomes easier to pull off.
Marry the shrew.
I become Sultan?
The idea has merit.
As the new Sultan of Agrabah and the genie's evil master, Jafar can think bigger than just getting out from under Jasmine and the former Sultan's thumbs. So what would his reign look like?
But there's a new order now.
My order.
Though Jafar's ambitions are often announced with terrifying laughter and booming thunder, there's reason to believe he would make a fascinating ruler. Throughout the film, the people of Agrabah are depicted as faithfully loyal to the ruling sultan, and Jafar doesn't express any explicit desire to cause the lower class more harm than they'd already endured. After all, Jafar uses his wishes to enrich himself, only enacting harsh punishments on those he deems antagonistic to his goals.
Finally, you will bow to me.
Despite being the story's villain, Jafar is set to lead a far greater revolution than the sometimes aloof Sultan Hamid was capable of. Disney's Jafar is loosely based on real Persian vizier Jafar ibn Yahya, a patron of the sciences who promoted medicine, astronomy, and engineering. So in this alternate version of Aladdin, sorcerer Jafar uses his cunning to advance a city of loyal subjects, with opportunities to imperialize nations once beyond his grip. Sometimes to the benefit of the people, but always to the benefit of himself.
I wish to be the most powerful sorcerer in the world!
Ursula. Unlike Jafar, Sea Witch Ursula is far crueler to her subjects in The Little Mermaid. The disgraced younger sister of King Triton has big plans for the kingdom of Atlantica once she secures the throne.
King Triton's headstrong, lovesick girl would make a charming addition to my little garden.
Ursula understands the ways in which the patriarchy is upheld, while the very idea of matriarchy is frowned upon.
The men up there don't like a lot of blabber. Yet on land it's much preferred for ladies not to say a word.
She teaches naive Ariel how to harness her rebellious streak by embracing womanhood. And, of course,
Body language.
Though she claims to help poor, unfortunate souls, it's only for her own gain. With Ariel enslaved to Ursula's impossible contract and Triton reduced to one of her shriveled pets, the witch finally scores the powerful trident. And it's quite terrifying to imagine what would have happened if she sunk Eric's ship before he could impale her.
It's time Ursula took matters into her own tentacles.
Though her rise to queen can be interpreted as feminist virtue, Ursula proves to be far from a girl's girl. She's willing to use Ariel as a pawn in her bartering game, swiping her voice and transforming into an alluring woman to steal Prince Eric.
She may be the key to Triton's undoing.
Furthermore, her voice deepens when she dons the crown, signaling a shift from a feminine figure to a masculine tyrant.
Now I am the ruler of all the ocean. The waves obey my every whim.
In this new Atlantica, dark magic reigns supreme. Just like the days when Ursula lived in the palace and enjoyed fantastical feasts, she once again indulges in royal pampering.
The sea and all its toils bow to my power.
And because she never showed any true regard for merpeople, the creatures of the ocean serve as nothing more than the decorations of her damned underworld. Frollo. The Hunchback of Notre Dame sees one of the most complex and downright evil villains in Judge Claude Frollo. Serving as Paris's Minister of Justice, Frollo commits a suspicious number of injustices throughout the film.
Choose me or the fire.
His pure disdain for Romany people stems from religious zealotry and the need to control the masses with an iron fist.
Their heathen ways inflame the people's lowest instincts, and they must be stopped.
Meanwhile, Frollo can hardly control himself.
I was just imagining a rope around that beautiful neck.
He chases Esmeralda into a church, insisting she be arrested even though it's against the law to detain a citizen in sanctuary.
I'm sorry, sir. She claimed sanctuary. There's nothing I can do.
Then drag her outside.
And this isn't the first time he outwardly defied the mores of the church.
Minister Frollo learned years ago to respect the sanctity of the church.
Frollo is such a terrifying tyrant because he imposes a strict moral code on his people while failing to adhere to it himself.
Captain, sir, seize the cathedral.
His combination of hatred and lust for Esmeralda sparks an impish hellfire within him, sparking a madness that leads to his undoing. But for all his flaws, it's safe to say that he could have gotten away with his crimes if his army was just a little more adept. Frollo's guards primarily serve as comic relief, constantly bested in cartoonish ways. If his underlings actually suppressed Quasimodo and the swelling mob, 15th century France would have looked a lot different.
But you can't let Frollo win. He already has.
Early in the film, he details his desire to vanquish the Romany people.
One by one. And yet, for all my success, they have thrived.
And he states numerous times that he is willing to burn down all of Paris if necessary. By the end of the story, Paris is quite literally burning, a manifestation of his rage and the way he belies his faith. So should Frollo win, he spearheads a full-out genocide against the Romany people, reducing the city to embers in the process.
It was my duty, horrible as it was. I hope you can forgive me.
Cruella de Vil. Disney's most fashionable femme fatale, Cruella de Vil is undoubtedly rotten to the core.
How are you? Miserable, darling, as usual, perfectly wretched.
A toxic green cloud even follows her around, warning of her menacing presence. The stakes of 101 Dalmatians are perhaps not as epic as other stories, but Cruella makes up for it with her devilishly wicked whims. She fancies her lavish wardrobe. In fact, it drives her.
My only true love, darling. I live for furs. I worship furs.
Cruella's flashy embellishments make her much bigger. She takes up the most space in a room. Though it may seem petty, Cruella's grand splendor actually symbolizes a deep class divide.
Oh, I'd like a nice fur, but there are so many other things.
Sweet, simple Anita. I know. This horrid little house is your dream castle.
Her distaste for the less fortunate kicks off a mean streak, especially when the Radcliffes refuse to sell her the puppies she desires for a vanity project.
When can the puppies leave their mother? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Never.
What?
Cruella's sick fantasy of turning a litter of Dalmatians into her next fur coat actually reveals a lot about her temperament. She views puppies and people as a means to an end, bossing around her former schoolmate and the burglar she hired to kidnap the canines.
I don't care how you kill the little beast, but do it! And do it now!
Oh, please, miss, now have pity, will you?
As word spreads of Cruella's cruel plans, the cats and dogs of London unite to thwart her. But what if she'd actually pulled it off? Several clues indicate what she might do next.
You'll be sorry, you fools! You idiots!
When the dogs disguise themselves as Labradors, Cruella turns her nose up at them, only interested in pretty things. Her taste for rare breeds and glamorous patterns proves that her appetite would only grow once she pulls off the heist. Even the thought of violently slaying puppies couldn't temper Cruella's trophy hunting frenzy.
Poison them, drown them, bash them in the head. You got any chloroform?
So with an unclouded conscience and a lot of money to throw around, there's truly nothing standing in her way. While we only see Cruella in a couple of iconic coats throughout the film, this darker ending emboldens her to add an even grander collection of exotic animal furs to her closet. Look out for the lynx coats in the sequel. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Scar. During the first act of the film, the Lion King's fearsome feline Scar actually gets away with an elaborate scheme to conquer the land. After killing Mufasa and banishing Simba, he rears his ugly head as king. The drought-stricken land falls into darkness, and those he promised would never be hungry again are quite literally starving.
Now get out.
Yeah, but we're still hungry.
Out!
Meanwhile, Scar picks his teeth with the bones of his latest feast, a symbol of the entitlement he's always possessed.
Well, I was first in line, until the little hairball was born.
The Lion King actually draws a bit of inspiration from biblical tales and Shakespeare's Hamlet. In that story, the rightful heir perishes in battle with the evil uncle who stole the throne. Should Scar have defeated Simba in this final duel, the Pride Lands would have suffered an extended dark age. But it's unlikely Scar holds on to power for long. His goal to weaken the Pride leaves him vulnerable to the bitter animals that scavenge the land.
Where is your hunting party? They're not doing their job.
Scar, there is no food. The herds have moved on.
Under Scar's rule, the Lion King still ends with his defeat. If not at the claws of Simba, then at the mercy of the Circle of Life. This law of balance is spelled out explicitly in the story.
Dad, don't we eat the antelope?
Yes, Simba, but let me explain. When we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass.
So Scar cannot sit at the top of the food chain forever.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
His eagerness to violate the kingdom's sacred hunting rights proves that he doesn't respect nature's order. And he betrays the hyena army just as quickly as he recruited it.
I am the king. I can do whatever I want.
So while Scar may enjoy a few more moons as king, he should be prepared for a royal toppling at the fangs of his disgruntled subordinates. Which Disney universes would look the most terrifying if the villain won? Share your comments below. Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.